Hey guys, Adrian here. I'm a coach and trainer. I do a lot of training from this room, and I've worked with people all across Australia and the world for just over a decade now. So I'm still learning. Now I'm going to make this video for you guys about how to reduce divorce rates for FIFO workers without sitting in a psychologist's office or a therapist's office, week after week, especially when someone's doing fly in, fly out. The last thing they want to do when they're back home is sit in a shrink's office and have deep discussions about emotions and anger or not putting away the dishes and the clothes. Okay. Now, this is a really important subject and we all know it. But the thing is, if you get divorced, it's not like the next partner is going to be the one and you're going to have that dream life. If you end up getting divorced, the chances are so much higher that you'll just get a divorce again. And if you haven't sorted this stuff out in this relationship, it'll probably repeat to the next. So a divorce doesn't mean you're going to have a great relationship. In fact, a divorce means you're less likely to have another great relationship. So you want to go hard and 100% in making this relationship, which you have now, work, not to mention the kids. Yeah. So it's really important that you make this relationship work because you already have it and you're not going to get another one. And then you have another big thing. Let's say you're on the edge of divorce, right? And the man or the woman, they end up getting help. And they get help from, say, a women's group or a men's group. And the men's groups are often led by people that have like a chip on their shoulder. Or you might get a bunch of women around talking about how the men are so grotty or dirty. You might get a group of men, and generally some of the men's ones, I'm sure some of the women's ones are really good as well. Some are really good. Yet some of them are also really led by people with chips on their shoulders, so the groups end up bagging out the other sex. And sometimes it's about empowering the woman to be empowered, when in actual fact, the leader of the group may have massive chips on her shoulder and it's disguised as empowerment, but it's actually the anger and resentment from the leader getting transferred to the group. So, the man or the woman can end up empowered to leave the relationship, but not just leave. Yeah, we're going to take the house, the wife, the kids with us. So we might end up in a situation where one partner is empowered to leave with a support network and the other partner isn't. And that often ends up with one partner committing suicide, or the other partner will end up with a lawyer, and then lawyer. And you know what lawyers love to do? Lawyers love to do lawyering. So the lawyers will fight, yeah? And the lawyers can very easily trigger each person, or just the emotions involved with the lawyers can trigger more and more. So $5,000 on each lawyer can quickly end up being 25, yeah, or 50. So 50K on a lawyer, 50K on a lawyer, could go up to 80K. Now you're looking at a husband and wife separating with kids, right? And maybe a house, maybe some other stuff, maybe some debts, but they've also now got $160,000 taken away for the lawyers. Lawyers are happy, it's another new car or something for the lawyers. So you can end up in a situation where a divorce can end up costing, $150,000+, not to mention therapy for the frigging kids. Yeah. So we want to do the best we can to not go down this broke, poverty, perhaps suicidal, court battle pathways and repeating the patterns on future partners. And we want to give this relationship the best effort we can. And what I'm going to share with you here is going to apply just as equally if you stay together or depart. Because if you're going to depart ways, wouldn't you want to depart peacefully and depart on a higher emotional level without the lawyers? So I'm going to share with you here in this video a good thing to help you both either rekindle the relationship and get back together, or at least start to talk and communicate better on a higher level of development. Is that cool? Apologies if I get any terminology wrong. I've been doing this for just over a decade. I've been hired by women and men going through divorce. Some of them have stayed together and really rekindled relationships, and some have walked away. But the ones that have walked away have done that. They've kind of walked away with less emotion and stress on their shoulders. And yes, I've been through there as well. And yes, I've seen that. I've seen those lawyer fees, and I've seen suicide by my mates as well, which is one reason why I make this. But now, typically what happens is we have this problem of husband and wife not connecting. We also have the problem of the husband and wife having all this shit inside their own head. Every time they point the finger, it's 3 fingers pointing back at them. And a lot of the times when people are fighting, they even have voices in their own head going over and over and over again. So a husband and wife on the edge of divorce, both of them have a pile of stuff in their head. And a lot of that stuff isn't supportive. It can be anger, resentment, it can be shame, guilt. Maybe they've done mistakes. So you've got 2 people that have generally a pile of stuff in their head, and a natural response is to blame, and that's okay. That's a natural response. So quite often the woman typically, and bless her women, right? They'll often want to get the man to come and see a psychologist, but there's a lot of problems with that. You know, small boxes, 15-minute time limit, you know, or maybe a double session. But, you know, do you really want to sit in a psych's office? Typically, you sit down in the psych's office or therapist's office, and, you know, the fight about the dishes or whatever comes up. So that time in the psych's office isn't very pleasant, and it often brings up stuff. And then a lot of the time, because of time constraints, you don't get a resolution. Sometimes you will, sometimes you don't. And I've actually worked with a couple of great relationship psychologists, coaches, therapists in the past. So I can happily recommend a couple of ones that I know are good, but we had to see a pile of ones that were SHIT. And some of them are like fresh out of school. Some of them have no real world experience, right? So it's hard for a lot of people to connect to them, let alone the fact that you can only connect with them in office hours. And for FIFO workers, those office hours are pretty limited. A FIFO worker might really need to speak to a psych or a therapist or a coach to work on himself. But the times that the FIFO worker is most optimal for accessing that help may not be 9 to 5, or 9 to 3 o'clock. Not to mention the psychs already have appointments. So psychs, especially the good psychs, will only have a couple of time slots and will not have the flexibility to work well. And then, you know, seeing the psychs together, sitting side by side, pros and cons, I can work with a team or a group of people and have them aligned towards getting a goal. But when it comes to husband and wife, I'll want them separated. I want the woman working on herself. I want the men working on themselves. Now, a husband and wife, and a relationship is a third entity. So the good thing is that if either one works on the relationship, it goes up. So one person can get help and that'll work, but ideally men and women will both get help. They will both get their own support person. You can have one person serving both, but it can be a bit tricky. Especially if the husband and wife end up saying, oh, coach said this, oh no, coach said that to me, you know, so it can get tricky. Ideally, both people have their own support person. Now, I want to give you a little bit of a dream scenario for me. And then the dream nightmare is one partner gets good coaching psychology. There's actually there's this thing called divorce coaches, and there are some divorce coaches that have massive chips on their shoulders and resentment. If anyone sees a divorce coach, the other partner, screwed, run for the hills. But if both coaches get a coach or a therapist, psychologist that has the experience and doesn't have the chips on their shoulder, that's done their own work, it'll be a lot smoother. So this is my kind of dream solution, okay? The dream solution for me. So husband and wife work on themselves separately. A little bit of therapy and psychology, but a bit more coaching. The psychology and therapy, particularly therapy, is good for letting go of the past. So sometimes therapy is needed to let go of the past, but then we want the coaching approach to move towards solutions. Therapy is largely about the past. Coaching is much more about the future. So the therapy is good for letting go of the past, and perhaps what do we need to learn from the past so that we can let go of it and move forward. So we need an approach or approaches that have the therapy, letting go of the old and moving towards the new. That's what I like coaches. Coaches' primary function is moving forward, getting solutions, getting answers. And it isn't a collaborative approach rather than a consulting approach where the coach shouldn't be telling you what to do. The coach should be asking you, what do you think we can do to make communications smoother? Okay, so husband and wife, I think, should both be working with some kind of coach, psychologist, therapist that has a coaching approach or also the therapy knowledge. And yes, I do that. Yes, my guys do that. And this is part of my dream solution for you guys, is that you work with someone like me or you call me now and I'll show you why. Okay, so rather than being limited to 9 to 4, when a psychologist, therapist has a free space, I've got people that I've trained and I know different psychologists, therapists, coaches around the world, not just sunny North Queensland or Western Australia. I've got people around the world. So imagine if Bob, let's say Bob is working with me. I would want Bob working with me maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, once a fortnight, depending. But ideally once a week. So say Bob gets out to the FIFO site. Yeah, Bob has just been home and Bob's had a shit show at home. Bob gets out to the FIFO site, and when it suits him at a time that works for him, he calls up the coach. Yeah. And that coach, by the way, could be located over in Europe, so the time zone isn't a problem. If it's 6 a.m. in the morning, my coach is in Europe, yeah, or a coach over in Canada, yeah, can take that call at the time that suits Bob. So coach and Bob have a call. Bob's just got back to work. He's had a shit week at home with the kids, and he feels like he's not good enough. Yeah, Bob's about to start a shift, 6 days or something, right? And Bob feels like shit. He's had a fucked up time back home. He didn't get along with the kids. Stuff happened. He gets back to work. He's like thinking about quitting work. Bob gets on the phone to a coach. Coach gets him in a more positive and upward spiral or a bit of therapy to let go of that stuff and start the week fresh. Bob does a 6-day shift. You know what it's like out there, men. And for the women, I hope you know what it's like. Yeah, and if your partner's out there, you got to find out what it's like out there being a FIFO. It can be effing hard, right? So Bob goes through his shift, doing the stuff, the scaffolding, or whatever Bob does. At the end of the shift, Bob has another call. Yeah, Bob has a call with a coach about going home, perhaps letting go of the week, letting go of the stress from work, and then Bob goes home to the family. Bob comes home with a family for a week. Yeah. Bob's taken some stuff away from the coach, and simply having that therapy session before he leaves work, before he gets home, means that Bob comes home more refreshed, a bit more positive, and Bob tries the week on a bit of a higher note. Bob may have a little bit of progress, But what happens if his wife, what happens if his wife Sharon sees a coach as well? Yeah. Now, imagine you do a 6-on, 6-off roster, and the sessions are 6 days apart. And the wife has a coach, and her sessions are 6 days apart. Yeah. This means that Bob has a call. 3 days later, she has a call. 3 days later, Bob has a call. 3 days later, she has a call. 3 days later, he has a call. Yep. So rather than sitting in a psych's office once a fortnight, both of them have a brief, maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour, maybe 2-hour phone call. Yeah, the flexibility to change it, each of them having a phone call every 3 days. So Bob has a phone call, then Sharon has a phone call. Bob has a phone call. Bob comes home. Thank God I'm back home away from the flies. You know, Bob's in a bit more of an upstate. You know, he had his call for coach, had a bit of de-stress. You know, he's trying to move things. 2-3 days after being home, Sharon has her phone call. Yeah, Sharon has her phone call, and she's up on a higher level. And Sharon's like, you know, well, he did come home happier, you know, and Sharon's got a bit more energy from the coach. And perhaps Sharon's plan is to let him really relax and enjoy his time, maybe give him a pat on the back and tell him how much she appreciates him and respects him. Maybe something else, you know. So then they have their 6 days together. Yeah, they're 6 days together at home. You know, Sharon has had her booster call in the middle, right? Now, Bob goes back to the work site. As Bob's gone back to the work site or within his first day, Bob has his next call. Bob and coach, yeah, mate, it was a bit better. What the coach does here is he amplifies this. So, Bob, what specifically was better? How was it better? What made it better? Yeah, and now what the coach can do is the coach can magnify the positive changes, right? The coach can magnify the positive changes, right? So, Bob, well done. Well done. I want you to congratulate yourself on the great, you know, on the better week you had, and notice the positive differences. Notice the positive difference that happens next week. See, things can change, Bob. See, Bob, things are changing. Things are getting better. See you in 6 days. Now, Shaz is at home alone. Shaz is at home alone. Yep, husband's gone back. 1, 2, 3 days later, Sharon has another call with the coach. Yeah. 3 days later, Bob has another call with the coach. Yeah, mate, I'm about to fly home. Can't wait to get out of here. So Bob and coach may have a bit of a strategy call. Okay, Bob, what are you going to do this week when you get home? Well, radio, Bob, when you get home, what's the first thing you're going to do that's going to be different? So you see that 3-day call really gets both of them in a really positive, uplifted state. And it could be extended rather than 50 minutes, time up, get out of the office. You know, 50 minutes could be doubled. Yeah. Coaches generally have more time window and flexibility. Psychologists, normally with the office, they've got time. So that's my kind of dream situation there. Have seen this in action, seen it incredibly well in action. Now, if you don't want to see someone like myself, that's cool as well. You know, you get your own experienced people, and you can do that. I like to share a couple of things you can do by yourself as well. So if you don't want to worry about that, that's totally fine. What else can you do by yourself? As I mentioned, if either partner does work by themselves, the relationship will grow. So either partner can see a coach, that's great. If you go to events like personal development courses or Tony Robbins events, those kind of things, it can be great. Either partner can go, but both partners going together, excellent. And so going to Tony Robbins or those kind of personal development courses is great. What will make them a little bit better, I think I've got a video for it somewhere. What makes those events a little bit better is if you plan to revisit the content a month or so later. So if you do go to some kind of big event, immediately plan to refocus on the content of that seminar a month later. Or if it is something like an event where there's lots of other people, immediately plan to meet everyone again 1 month later or at 1 month intervals. So every month or sometime in a calendar, revisit whatever you learned in that personal development event. Okay. Another thing you can do, and more so by yourself, mindfulness. Mindfulness is really an incredible thing, ladies and gentlemen. Mindfulness is the bomb. A lot of people struggle to sit on a cushion, but there are lots of ways you can be mindful. There are many different ways to meditate and stuff. In my opinion, one of the keys for mindfulness is kind of closing off the monkey chatter in the brain. The brain works with a variety of like frequencies, the lowest frequency being deep sleep, the higher frequencies being like, yeah. And typically when you're angry, monkey chatter, Yep. So we really important to practice mindfulness, because mindfulness, helps us get more control over our brain. And in those times where we are mindful, perhaps out in the garden and really enjoying the garden, or playing an instrument, playing music and really getting into it, that stuff can close off the monkey chatter and open up the bandwidth to the heart. So perhaps while we're doing that, it gives an opportunity for some of the old stuff to just naturally drift away. So any kind of mindfulness practices. Okay, third thing, reactiveness to responsiveness. A lot of people react. We want to get to respond. If you've had a Barney with your partner and you find yourself like doing the dishes and you're angry, if you go to sleep and you feel anger in your face, you go to sleep, you can scan your body. If any of your muscles are contracting, that's stress, that shortens your life. Sorry, it's only your life. So if you go to bed and you feel any of that stress, or you're washing the dishes and you're having this argument with yourself, if your partner has gone and in your mind you are still talking to them, that's reacting. That's reacting, and we want to eliminate reacting, or at least greatly reduce it. I've got an article for that, a whole thing for that. Really, basically, we've got to stop the reacting by bringing awareness to it. We bring awareness to it, while mindfulness increases that. Once we have the awareness of it, basically, we want to say it out loud. Reacting. So I'm washing the dishes by myself and I notice I'm having an argument with my ex in my head, or I'm having an argument with the people at work in my head. I got to say, reacting out loud. Acknowledge the awareness that I am reacting. Then we want to move to responding, taking choice. Okay, so that's my ideal situation. Work with a coach, 3 days, 3 days, 3 days, 3 days, 3 days, 3 days. Yep. Something to that effect. Both people get a coach or a good psychologist, therapist with the coaching approach. Shout out for that. 2, you can go to events, personal development events. 3, mindfulness. 4, go from reactivity to response. Okay, I hope you do like this video. I really want to help save some marriages, divorce, depression, addictions. They ruin people's lives. And it really sucks when people end up doing tragic things instead of living beautiful lives. Okay, if you like this video, do share your thoughts. If you want me to cover a specific topic, please do that. I generally train quite regularly, so it doesn't take too much to make a video for you guys. Yeah, you figure out a way to contact me, do your thing, have a wonderful day, keep on improving yourself. Keep on improving yourself, and don't let anger and resentment, that kind of shit, hold you back. Okay, thank you for your time.